I know what you're thinking. That pretending to be asleep just to see what your straight friend might do is a stupid idea. And you'd be right. But I did it anyway. And now I can't stop thinking about that night. Let me back up. I'm Eric, 24, just trying to get through the post-grad haze with some kind of direction, working a job I don't care about, and living in an overpriced apartment with the guy I've been half in love with for the past 2 years, my best friend and roommate Wes. Wes is the kind of guy you'd expect to have it all figured out. He's good-looking in that effortless way that makes girls flirt with him everywhere we go. Tall, athletic, annoyingly charming. He always says the dumbest things with the kind of smile that makes it impossible to stay annoyed at him. We met sophomore year, got thrown into the same group project, and somehow it turned into bar nights, lazy Sundays, and eventually moving in together. And while I was busy trying not to stare when he came out of the shower in a towel, he was dating girls and making plans for the future. Wes has never once said anything to make me think he's into guys. Not directly, but the thing is, he's comfortable. Too comfortable. He never minded how close we sat on the couch. He'd call me handsome when he was tipsy. He walked around shirtless, constantly, like it was his personal mission to destroy my sanity. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'd catch him looking at me in a way that didn't feel completely platonic. But it never went anywhere. I never let it. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was projecting. I mean, come on. Wes is straight. And then came that night. It had been a typical Friday. We ordered tacos, crushed a six-pack between the two of us, and watched some mindless comedy that had Wes snorting into his beer. I don't even remember half the movie. We'd both had enough to feel buzzed, maybe a little too relaxed. At some point, I mumbled something about going to bed. Wes was stretched out across the couch, head back, half asleep already. I got up, swayed a bit, and padded off to my room. I didn't even bother changing, just collapsed onto my bed in jeans and a t-shirt. I remember staring at the ceiling, the room spinning just slightly, my body heavy. I heard Wes in the hallway a few minutes later, probably brushing his teeth or getting water. Then I heard him pause outside my door. I don't know why I didn't move. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was something else. That part of me that had always wondered, what if? So I stayed still, face turned away, breathing slow and even. The door creaked open. My heart thudded once, hard, but I didn't flinch. Wes didn't say anything. I heard him step inside. Quiet, like he didn't want to wake me. The mattress dipped slightly behind me. I could feel him there, sitting on the edge of my bed. My eyes stayed shut, but I was wide awake. I thought he was gonna leave, that maybe he just wanted to check on me, maybe drunken concern, or some weird half-asleep thing. But then, I felt his hand. Light, hesitant. He placed it on my side, just above my hip. I froze, not visibly, not enough to give myself away. But inside, I was spiraling. What was he doing? His hand didn't move at first. Just rested there, his fingers warm through the thin fabric of my shirt. Then, slowly, almost like he was afraid of what he was doing, his thumb started tracing small, absent-minded circles against my side. I was trying so hard not to react, to keep breathing evenly, but every nerve in my body was lit up like a fuse. He leaned closer. I felt his breath near my neck, warm and slow. Still, I didn't move. Then he whispered it, barely audible. "You awake?" I almost answered. I almost turned around and said something, but I didn't, because I wanted to know what he would do if I didn't, and what he did next, I'll never forget. I laid there, completely still, heart thudding so loudly I was terrified he could hear it. His whisper, "You awake?" still hung in the air between us, but I didn't move, didn't flinch, just kept breathing, slow and steady, the way you do when you're pretending to sleep as a kid, trying to catch Santa. There was a pause. Long. I thought maybe he'd back off, laugh at himself in that embarrassed Wes way, and leave the room. But he didn't. Instead, his hand slid a little higher, just under the hem of my shirt. His fingers were warm, tentative, like he was trying to memorize the feel of my skin. I felt his knuckles brush just beneath my ribs, and I almost shivered, but I kept it together. barely. His breathing had changed too, slower, deeper. There was tension radiating off him. I could feel it in the way his thigh brushed mine through the blanket. I wasn't sure if it was nerves or desire. Maybe both. Then his fingers moved again, trailing up along my side, dragging the fabric of my shirt with them. It wasn't forceful. It wasn't clumsy. It was gentle, careful, intimate. I'd imagined stuff like this. Sure, I think we all have when we live with someone we secretly want. But this wasn't like a fantasy. It was quieter, stranger, way more real. He didn't say anything. He just kept going. He traced slow, light circles over my lower back, then up toward my shoulder blade. Then he stopped, hand resting flat on my skin. It stayed there, like he didn't know what to do next, like he was waiting for something. And then I felt it, his weight shifting behind me, the warmth of his chest moving closer. His breath against my neck again, closer this time. He was lying down now, right behind me. I swallowed, quietly, tried not to react. He wasn't touching me fully yet, just the side of his body grazing mine through the blanket. His legs behind my legs, his chest behind my back, his breath at my ear. Then, slowly, his arm draped across me, lightly, like he was afraid I'd stir. But I didn't. I just let him. His hand rested on my stomach, still under my shirt. His thumb brushed lazily over my skin, and I felt him exhale, like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. He pressed his face into the back of my neck. Not a kiss, not exactly, but close, soft, and I felt something else too, lower, pressed against me through the thin layers of fabric between us. There was no mistaking it. He was hard. I froze. My mind was racing, but I didn't move. I couldn't tell if he was fully aware of what he was doing, or if he was dreaming, or maybe somewhere in between. But this wasn't just some half-asleep accident. He was into it. He wanted this. And that realization hit me like a wave. Wes, my straight roommate, the guy I'd shared beers and pizza and inside jokes with for 2 years, was hard in my bed, breathing against my neck with his hand under my shirt. I should have said something, but I didn't, because part of me wanted to see how far he'd go, and because part of me wanted it too. It felt like time had folded in on itself. Every second stretched and warped, my heart beating in slow motion while Wes's arm stayed draped around me, hand warm against my skin. I kept my face turned toward the wall, frozen in place, pretending sleep but fully awake. Every nerve alert. He didn't move for a while. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he was trying to convince himself this wasn't happening, or maybe he was trying to convince himself it was. But then, almost imperceptibly, his hand slid down. Not far. Just a few inches. Now his fingertips grazed the edge of my waistband, hovering like he was asking a silent question. His breath hitched when he made contact, barely a whisper of sound, but I felt it in his chest against my back. He didn't speak, didn't even sigh, just held there. That pause again. The kind of pause that makes your stomach turn and your skin buzz with anticipation. Then, his fingers slipped just slightly under the waistband of my boxers. I almost stopped breathing. He didn't move further. He just rested there, hand half tucked beneath the fabric, fingers grazing the curve of my lower stomach. It was so intimate, so deliberate, there was no way he could pretend this was accidental. Still, I stayed silent, unmoving. I had no idea what this was. If it was about me or something else, if he was testing me, testing himself, or if maybe this had been building for longer than I'd realized. All I knew was he was still there, still hard, still touching me like he'd done it before in his mind 1,000 times, but never dared try. His hand shifted again, slow, like he was terrified to wake me. And yet, I could feel the hunger behind it, the tension in his body, the quiet desperation. Then his lips, warm, hesitant, pressed against the back of my neck. Just once, barely there, but it sent a full-body shiver down my spine. He must have felt it because he froze. His breath caught, and suddenly everything stopped. His hand, his breath, everything. I could practically hear the alarm bells going off in his head. Like he realized, in that exact second, that he'd crossed some invisible line, that he'd gone further than he meant to. He started to pull back, slowly. His arms slipped away. His body shifted. I felt the mattress rise just a little as he sat up. The air between us was thick and electric, like a wire had snapped, and he didn't know how to put it back together. But before he got off the bed completely, he whispered something, barely audible. "Sorry." Then he left. The door clicked shut behind him, quiet, controlled. And I laid there, staring at the wall, heart hammering, skin still burning where he'd touched me. My brain was a storm, 1,000 questions, 100 emotions. But one thing was crystal clear. Wes had wanted me. And now I had to figure out what the hell to do about it. The next morning, I woke up alone. The light filtering through my blinds was soft and golden, too calm for how loud my thoughts were. I laid there a while, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't. The warmth on the sheets beside me was still there. The way he touched me, slow, unsure, intimate, was seared into my memory. And that whisper, that soft sorry, had played on a loop in my head all night, long after he left the room. Eventually, I got up and wandered into the kitchen. Wes was already there, shirtless in gym shorts, flipping eggs like it was any other morning. His back was to me. "Hey," he said without turning around. Casual, too casual. I cleared my throat. "Hey." He glanced over his shoulder, gave me a small grin, then went back to his cooking. "You sleep okay?" I hesitated. "Yeah. You?" He nodded, dropping eggs onto plates. "Slept like a rock." Bullshit. But I played along, because I didn't know what else to do. We ate breakfast in silence. The usual morning soundtrack, the clink of forks, the buzz of his phone lighting up with group chats, felt bizarrely normal. Too normal. I kept waiting for him to say something. Anything. But he didn't. He made a joke about his fantasy football team and asked if I wanted to split a pizza later, like we hadn't just crossed some invisible line hours earlier. The rest of the day was a blur. We both had things to do. Errands, emails, the usual distractions. But the tension hung between us like fog. And every time we passed each other in the apartment, I felt it. The shift, like the space between us had changed shape. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, restless, heart pounding in the quiet. Part of me wanted him to come back. Part of me was terrified he would. But he didn't, and that somehow felt worse. 2 days passed like that. Normal on the surface, but tight underneath. Wes acted like nothing had happened, but I could tell he was off. He was quieter, restless. He'd go for late runs that lasted too long, then come back sweaty and distant. I caught him staring once. I was on the couch, flipping through my phone, when I looked up and saw him standing in the hallway, watching me. He didn't look away, just stood there, like he was waiting for something. Then, without a word, he disappeared into his room. The third night, it happened again. I was lying in bed, lights off, not really asleep, just drifting. The door creaked. My chest tightened. I didn't move. He stepped in quietly. I could feel his presence before he even sat down. The mattress dipped behind me. Neither of us said a word. Then I felt his hand again, tentative, familiar, resting lightly on my side. But this time, he didn't move. He just laid there. And after a while, he whispered, "You're not asleep, are you?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Because I needed to know how far he'd go. And what he'd say next. "You're not asleep, are you?" His voice was barely a whisper, like he was afraid saying it out loud would crack the moment open and ruin it. I stayed still for a beat longer, then turned over, slowly. Wes was lying there beside me, his eyes wide and vulnerable in the dark. No cocky grin, no fake confidence, just him. "No," I said softly. "I'm not." His throat bobbed like he was trying to swallow something heavy. I figured. We were so close, our faces just inches apart. His hand was still resting on my side, like he didn't know what to do with it, now that the truth was out. I didn't move away. He licked his lips and looked down. "I don't know what I'm doing, man." "Okay." "It's not that He shook his head. "I mean, I've never done anything like that before. I didn't plan it, I swear. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about you. And I thought you were asleep, and I shouldn't have. But..." His words trailed off, buried under shame. I let him sit in it for a second. Then I asked, "Why did you come in here again tonight?" He looked at me. Honest. Raw. Because not coming felt worse. Silence settled again, but it wasn't empty. It was full. His breath. My heartbeat. Everything we weren't saying. "I didn't stop you," I said. "That night." I know. I could have said something. But I didn't. His hand tensed slightly on my side. I looked him in the eye. Because part of me wanted it. He blinked. "You did?" "I do." The air between us thickened. I could see it in his face. The way the weight of weeks, maybe months, cracked open inside him. He was scared. But more than that, he was relieved. "I don't know what this means," he said. "We don't have to define it right now." He nodded, slowly. "Okay." Then, almost imperceptibly, he leaned forward. Not a kiss, just resting his forehead against mine. We stayed like that for a while, breathing together. Finally, his hand moved again, this time sliding around to my back as he pulled me gently into him. Our bodies fit in a way I didn't expect, like they already knew how. I let my arm drape over his waist, felt his skin, warm and familiar. His chest rose and fell against mine. "I was scared you'd hate me," he said quietly. "I don't. I thought maybe I ruined everything." "You didn't." He sighed against me. I felt the tension bleed out of his shoulders. We didn't need to talk anymore that night. We just laid there, tangled up, listening to the sound of each other breathing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I didn't have to pretend anymore. Neither of us did. The next few days were strange, but not in a bad way. It was like we were walking this invisible tightrope between what we were and what we were becoming. Neither of us said the word relationship. No talks about labels or what it all meant. But everything between us felt different now. Warmer, closer, charged with something new. We moved through the apartment like we'd always had a rhythm. Cooking breakfast together, sharing headphones on the couch, bumping shoulders in the hallway. But now there were these subtle things that hadn't been there before. Like how he'd rest his hand on my lower back when he walked behind me in the kitchen. Or how we'd make eye contact just a little longer than before. Or the way he started coming to bed a little earlier, and always in my room. That was the unspoken shift. He stopped going to his own bed. He never made a big deal out of it. He'd just slip into my room, climb in next to me like it was the most natural thing in the world, and fall asleep with his arm draped over my waist. The first time he kissed me with the lights on, it wasn't even planned. We were in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, watching a movie we'd both already seen. I don't remember what we were even talking about. Something dumb, probably. But there was this lull in the conversation, a pause, and he just looked at me and leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't rushed or hesitant this time. It was full, open, real. When we pulled apart, he looked slightly dazed. Then he laughed under his breath and said, "I've been wanting to do that all day." I said, "So why didn't you?" He shrugged. "Still figuring out how to be this guy, I guess." I didn't push him. I didn't need to, because every day he gave me a little more. We didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not because we were ashamed, but because it was still ours. Still unfolding. still delicate in that new, unfamiliar way. There was one night that really stuck with me. We were lying in bed. He was on his back, and I was half curled into his side, tracing lazy circles over his chest. His eyes were half closed, but I could tell he wasn't fully asleep. Out of nowhere, he said, "I used to get nervous about being touched." I looked up at him. "What do you mean?" He took a breath. "I always told myself I wasn't into guys, but then sometimes I'd feel things, like in the locker room or when a friend got a little too close. I'd feel that flutter, that pull, and I hated it. I thought it made me weak." I was quiet, just listened. "But with you," he continued, "it's not like that. It doesn't feel wrong. It doesn't make me panic. It just feels good." I leaned up and kissed him gently, right under his jaw. He whispered, "You make it easy." That moment wrecked me more than anything else had. Not because it was romantic or sexy, but because it was real, vulnerable, honest in a way he rarely was. That was the thing about Wes. He wasn't trying to be anyone's idea of a perfect anything. He was just trying to understand himself, step by shaky step. And I got to be there while he did. We didn't have a big coming out moment or some dramatic announcement to the world. Life just kept happening, and we kept quietly adjusting to fit into it together. I started noticing little things, like how Wes would linger in doorways when I was working, just to be near me, or how he'd text me dumb memes during the day but follow it up with a "miss you" if I got home late. He started grabbing coffee for me without asking how I took it, because he already knew, and when we had friends over, he stopped pretending. He didn't touch me, not in any obvious way, but his eyes said enough. They looked at me differently now. Open. Certain. One night, we went out with some of our usual crew. Nothing wild, just drinks and wings at the usual bar. Everyone was a few beers in when our friend Marcus brought up the old "who'd you turn gay for?" question. Half joking, totally predictable. Wes didn't even hesitate. "Eric," he said, eyes on me. No question. It got a laugh from the group, but he didn't laugh. He meant it. My face went hot, but not with embarrassment, with something closer to awe. Because for someone who once didn't even have the language for what he was feeling, Wes was now saying it out loud, in public, unafraid. Later that night, when we got home, I pulled him close in the kitchen, just past midnight. We were both a little buzzed, but mostly just full of wings, of warmth, of everything we couldn't say in front of everyone else. I kissed him softly, then rested my forehead against his. "You know you scare the hell out of me, right?" I said. He smiled. "Same, but I'm glad you walked into my room that night." His fingers threaded through mine. "Me too." And then he said it. "Whatever this is, I don't want it to go away." I squeezed his hand. "Then don't let it." So we didn't. We didn't rush into labels. We didn't map out a 5-year plan. But we did keep choosing each other. Every morning. Every night. Every quiet moment in between. And sometimes, when he's wrapped around me in bed, arms slung over my waist, breath warm against my neck, I think back to that first night, when I pretended to be asleep, when he touched me like he didn't know if he was allowed to want it, and how now, he doesn't pretend anymore. Neither do I.